Hey, good afternoon. My name is David Hebert. I am the Director of ECMO Services for Heartbeat Perfusion Solutions. It is an honor to be here today to speak to all of you about something very near and dear to my heart, probably all of us, actually. I've been an ECMO specialist for 23 years now. I actually had hair when I started. I spent the tenure of my career at Children's Hospital in New Orleans, where I was the program director for about the last 10 years or so. And being an RT based, I'm an RT specialist, excuse me. I learned ECMO about a year after getting into the field, about 2001, 2002. And I just fell in love with it right away, like most of us have probably. And I remember my dream job was to become the ECMO coordinator / director one day. And it came true. Lucky, yes. And at the same time, I learned a lot. I had a great mentor, and she trained me behind the scenes, I guess, as an assistant coordinator for a couple of years before she retired. And I'm quite grateful, quite thankful for that, to be honest with you. But I learned a lot of things along the way. And one of the things that I'm trying to focus on in this part of my career is also helping other coordinators to be what it takes to be a good coordinator. And I think we all probably think we do a good job, and I'm sure we all do. But as I've spoken to so many colleagues over the years from other centers, it's just getting little tidbits of what they have done to make their program better, how to be a better coordinator, how to be a better peer, be better in our position, and be better for healthcare. So I'm going to go through some ideas today, which I think helps make a coordinator a better coordinator. And some of these ideas, I'm sure many of you have utilized and become quite successful, but again, it is my passion to help spread some of this information to help others become successful in their paths. So let's get started, shall we? My only disclosure is that I am an employee of Heartbeat Perfusion Solutions. So some of the objectives we're going to cover today, and not maybe that should be in this order, maybe we may bounce around a little bit, but I think some of this actually gets caught in a lot of slides. We'll talk about requirements, position requirements, what you need to have behind your belt, under your belt, excuse me, to become a ECMO coordinator or director. Position responsibilities and expectations, building relationships, effective communication, medical director, team building, and ownership. So position requirements. So we know this is going to vary from center to center. And so everyone has a little different process and build up from their administration, how this position should be filled and by who. So some of the things we need to just kind of brush off or start off with should be an RT, an RN, a perfusionist, or an MD. Should have a good standing with HR. So you should, you want to make sure you have someone who is, not in trouble, right? Who's not constantly out sick, maybe, or breaking rules and getting in, as I said, for getting in trouble. We don't want that. X years of ECMO experience. And that, again, that's going to vary. You may have a 2-year experience ECMO specialist who is just extremely way ahead of his or her time, or you may have a 20-30-year veteran who may really not be ready for this leadership role. So again, I put X years because again, that varies again amongst many centers. Management experience helps. Before my role as ECMO coordinator, I was a day shift respiratory supervisor for quite a while. And I think that helped me learn to have tough conversations with people, with parents and employees, and being able to challenge peers and physicians and anyone else at the part of the team in a proper way, in a professional manner, to make sure that we could discuss oppositions, but work together as a team. Being positive. I think, as a leader, we have to be realistic. And so I'll put these two together, positive and optimistic, but realistic. I think we need to kind of put a smile on our face every day and say, hey, it's only 12 hours of our life, which kind of was my phrase often. And because you have to be positive. You have to make sure that you are the kind of like the cheerleader of the group. And, we go through a lot of positive and negative parts of our career, but you have to make sure we're there, that smile, that comfort person to bring your team forward, and other members of the whole healthcare team also. So some responsibilities and expectations I jotted down. 1, so you should be able to coordinate care of ECMO patients across all areas, including candidate evaluation, patient selection, priming and initiation, and follow-up care. You should be able to provide patient, family, and staff education, serve as a resource to the multidisciplinary team caring for ECMO patients, providing expertise in device operation and troubleshooting. You should be able to develop and maintain ECMO technologies, quality control, collection, analysis, and dissemination of data to appropriate parties, and also develop, renew policies, procedures, standards and guidelines of standards of care and continuous quality improvement for the activities for the program. So a lot of centers, I think if you've worked on policy and procedure before, sometimes it's best to create guidelines instead of policy and procedure. I think some policy procedure could be strict as far as cleaning of equipment and storage, but I feel like what has worked well for me in the past is creating more guidelines, because as we know, every patient is different. You can have 4 patients on ECMO, all the same disease process, all the same age, all the same BMI, so on and so forth, but they're all going to act a little different on their run, and we know this. So I think you have to make sure you make your program where it's not so rigid, where you lose control or oversight of each patient, but still be malleable to a certain extent. So I'm going to break down some responsibilities and expectations, kind of copied from some of my old job description and some things I've picked up from people over the years. So I'll read through this with you, and we can see what compares to your center. So when it comes to patient care, we should be able to perform as an expert clinician with extensive knowledge of ECMO for all phases of patient care, be able to ensure patient care practices are compliant with policy, procedures, and guidelines, actively participate in daily multidisciplinary rounds, offering clinical expertise in ECMO management. And I'm going to stop here for a second. I don't know who else does this in their center, but we implemented about a year before I left, having specific ECMO rounds in the morning. And this was just a basic 5-minute chat between the surgeon, myself, the person sitting ECMO, the bedside staff, nursing and respiratory, the ICU provider, perfusion, and whoever else just wanted to really listen. And we made sure we had a daily goal for our patient, because I think we all seen too many times when we go home in the evening or afternoon and patient care takes a true tangent, and we come back the next day, we're now fluid overloaded or what have you, with all due respect to all those different physicians taking care of the patient. So we just we realized we had a problem with this. And once we implemented ECMO rounds, within about 2 months, I think, of people got used to it. Because at first it's hard to pull a surgeon in any direction, but it worked well. After a while, we realized we had a less incident of, again, a tangent and doing things that just weren't quite right for the patient. So it worked. I suggest we don't do that. At least give consideration. Sorry about that. The patient, the ECMO manager should be able to manages equipment, supplies, and charges in conjunction with hospital liaisons, ensures all are available in working order. So work with your biomed department and others. Develop skill set in priming ECMO circuits, initiation and removal of ECMO, and ensure the provision of a safe and comforting environment. When it comes to coordination, should assume a leadership role in the clinical setting, seeks consultation from medical directors as required to facilitate ECMO management, assess functionality of equipment and collaborates with the biomed department in the scheduling and performance of regular preventative management. It should be maintenance, excuse me. Monitors ECMO supply inventory and ensures ongoing replenishment. You want to make sure you're ahead of the game. As we know, currently there's some allocations with certain different disposables. And so you just want to keep an eye ahead of that, be proactive. We were not a very robust center. We did maybe 20 cases a year, but we never had less than 8 peds or adult oxygenators on the shelf to make sure we had plenty, because you don't want to wake up Saturday morning with a phone call of we're out of oxygenators and we need to put a patient on, or out of circuits, whatever. The coordinator should assist in preparation of the department budget, projecting reasonable activity levels and expenses required to achieve approved net margin for work units, operates and works within approved budget, assists with achieving the hospital's mission, and incorporates the values of the hospital's day-to-day activities. So budget is a big thing. I was lucky in a way. I was the department of one, so I handled budget, training, and everything. I'm not here to brag about myself, but I know what it's like to go through all of these, have to handle all of these ideas. So you want to make sure your budget's intact. You make sure for capital expenditure, make sure you know what you need for next year and be prepared. Don't wait till the end of that fiscal year or the middle of the fiscal year to say you need something, because you probably will have to fight really hard for it. So process improvement. assist with the development of quality improvement plans and activities, maintain ELSO registry, participates in our leads process in obtaining and maintaining ELSO Center of Excellence Award, facilitates ECMO case reviews and morbidity mortality forums, promotes the systematic assessment and improvement of performances, oversees ECMO documentation and ensures accuracy and integrity, and benchmarking. So I think, looking through all these topics and these points, keeping up with ELSO and other centers, not just ELSO, but keeping up with other centers also. And you want to benchmark because you want to have a little bit of bragging right. You want to see where your program's at. And if you have some deficits, you want to be able to bridge those gaps and get to the place where you should be. But you also want to be able to use the positives to use as feedback for your team and kind of, let them be proud of themselves, walk with a little bit of swagger, and let them understand that they're doing a good job. And if you're not doing a good job, you can use this information to bring back to you. If you have an ECMO committee or whatever you may have, we meet with the physicians and administration and kind of prove, to express, where you're at in your program. Education. So education, you should be able to provide routine education events for staff to maintain ECMO competency and proficiency, assist in competency reviews of staff, identify learning needs of all staff members, provide continuing education for all ECMO key stakeholders, provide information on ELSO guidelines, and identifies patient family education needs and ensures adequate information sharing. So you want to make sure everything is out there that can be out there for education. I think that falls really heavily on our shoulders. We are the resident expert in ECMO, and so we should be able to explain that to anyone who comes our way or express how we do things at our center also. For example, we would send out every Friday some kind of small ECMO like a vignette or something, just something minor that you might find online or just build from your center. And for education also, as suggested by ELSO, every year we had an annual written exam, and what I did that every year was very different because I made it center specific. And we might cover some basic platform information, but I always went back and looked through all of our cases and picked some highs and lows where I thought we could learn from that and use that in the written exam. That way, again, it was center specific, and it kind of brought the team a little tighter together because they kind of remember these scenarios, and it's things we still worked on for wet drills. So I thought it was quite effective for us. Professionalism is really important. Maintain a personal responsibility for professional growth and development, accepts both positive and negative feedback, attends at least 80% of in-service and departmental meetings, positive team member, said this earlier, and express itself in an organized, comprehensive, articulate, and concise manner. So I think the hardest thing for all of us to do is accept any negative feedback or about our program or constructive criticism, And so you want to believe that your program is the best of the best, and you should believe that if you have the right path for that. So when you hear things about your program, just kind of, take it with some heart, but also have a tough skin and realize maybe there are things that we don't know our program needs for improvement, and just bring it home and work on that. Again, being a positive team member every day, I've met my staff with a smile, and, I sometimes use sarcasm to make them feel better. But again, I've always made them understand that, we're here for a patient, and that is it. The rest is just what happens, comes along with the job we've chosen, and to make sure that everybody really gave 100%. And again, I used to often say it's 12 hours of our life, right? And so tomorrow's could be a different day. And, we had a good rapport, I think so. Initiatives. So you want to develop specific work plans and due dates, follow through and plan assignments with assigned timeframes, adjust to change work pressures or different situations and without undue stress, effective in cost control and resource utilization, demonstrate skills in developing improvements in work methods, and walk the walk. Actions speak louder than words. So I think we know this. You could say all you want, but until you do it, then it makes a difference. So I made sure that I never asked my team to do anything that I would not do. And I got down and dirty with them, and I sat, a lot of hours also, but I made sure they knew that we were a team. And so again, that helps foster teamwork. At the same time, you face a lot of stress going on. So you just need to make sure you and your team are ready to take anything on and approach it as a champion. Building relationships, that's really important, right? In everyday life, but also as an ECMO coordinator or director or manager. So you want to make a good relationship with your ECMO team, right? You want to make sure that there's, you have their trust. As a leader, you want to make sure your team trusts you and will follow you down the road to wherever you're going as a group. Perfusion, couldn't do it without perfusion, right? These guys have been doing this, do this every day in the OR. And we learn from them, and you want to make sure they have your back and you have their back. It's a two-way street. Administration, of course, we know we need their money and we need their approval to make major changes in our programs. Providers, we work with these guys every day, whether you're an RT, RN, perfusionist. We still work with them at some other levels. So you want to make sure you have proper relationships with them. That way, when you need to express there needs to be a change in your ECMO program or patient care, that you already have their ear, that you have that backing, that your word means something. Blood bank and lab, that's, we need to make sure we collaborate with them. Your QA department, quality assurance, that is really going to help you work with your benchmarking ideas and measure what's going on in your program to show administration. Administration loves positive things. They don't like things that create a cost on the back end. So work with your QA program. Palliative care, OT, PT. Again, we brought palliative care in from day one because most people think palliative care is something negative, but it really helped bring the parents comfort. And whether we had a positive or negative outcome, had lots of compliments of having them on board from the beginning. Nephrology, neurology, radiology, respiratory and nursing, I can go into details about each one, but you want to make sure you have a good relationship. If you have an ECMO committee, I would suggest having at least one representative from each of these fields. That way everyone is involved at the table and has a chance to express what they feel, any kind of pros or cons about their program for improvement. Effective communication, you want to be clear and precise. You want to make sure when you express something to anyone, they understand what you're saying. I don't think you should beat around the bush. There's a way to be, be effective and be polite about it. Closed loop communication is very important. Like we talk about this, in PALs and all kind of especially in codes. You want to make sure we understand what's happening. So if I say, hey, Bob, push 20 mils of albumin. Bob knows I'm saying, he's going to repeat, yes, pushing 20 mils of albumin, whatever it be. That way we understand again, same page. Be factual. Don't express your thoughts or feelings at the bedside unless it's asked, but just be factual about data if you're asked about your patient. And target your audience. So you can speak to your team a little different. You can speak to administration or to a family member. And I don't mean so much with attitude, but the words you choose. So make sure you make that, again, going back to the clear and precise communication, make sure it gets to where it needs to be. If you're talking to family members, many of them don't know the words we use. A lot of them maybe might want to use some layman's terms. And sometimes you will have family members who are medical professionals, and they probably will tell you that from the beginning, but that's okay. And so if you have that, then you have the opportunity to maybe dive deeper into things with them, but just make sure you understand your audience and make it effective. Medical director, know your medical director. You may not like the person, they might like you, right? But get to know them, work with them, build a rapport with them, get to understand what they really expect from you as a coordinator for the ECMO program. Make sure they're involved in meetings, and maybe just have a cadence of meetings, just you and that medical director. If you're new to the center, or maybe the medical director is new for you, excuse me, make sure you guys meet. Talk to each other, get to know each other, and understand, again, where you're coming from. And you want to make sure, I think this is very important, have your medical director involved in all aspects of the ECMO program. I think they should oversee every case to a certain extent. Now, there may be different parties, cannula, you may have general and cardiac surgery, but make sure that medical director has some involvement in everything and be communicative with them. I was very lucky. I chose my medical director. This is he right here and he here. When I first met him, I was scared of him because he was extremely strict, and was hard to deal with, like many CT surgeons. It's the truth. It's okay. But we became best of friends. And so this is he making fun of me at a conference in Austin, ELSA conference. And I missed his Christmas party last year, wasn't feeling well. So he decided to make a Dave on the shelf instead of Elf on the shelf. So he wore this around for a couple of hours and he gave me a hard time. So you may not have that same relationship with your medical directors I did. I was just very blessed, but make sure you know them and have a well working rapport with them. Team building. So know your staff, know your team. I had a volunteer army of about 18 people, and I could kind of in my head know that Jane is not well at anticoagulation, and Bob is really good with identifying recirculation, whatever it shall be. So know your staff and be human with them, create a rapport with them, be real, but just they're going to come to you as a manager, sometimes just as an ear, like a therapist, and just want to talk and just be there for them. Again, it gains trust. That was my next point. So you gain trust with your team. And again, if you walk the walk, as I said down there before, and you see down here again, because I think is very important, you almost cannot lose. And you have to be their voice. A lot of people are scared to speak up. And that's okay. You have to be that voice. You have to be loud. You have to be able to say, hey, I need to talk to you about ABC, right? And so just be there for your team. And so here's a picture of our team, part of our team we took when we got our ELSO Gold Award last year. And it's a mixture of specialists, perfusion, MDs, and here's the medical director. And here's our magnet nurse who helped me rewrite our Center of Excellence Award application, because she probably wrote much better than I could. So, but anyway, couldn't do it without this group of people. Again, so at the end of this, ownership, right? So if you want to be an ECMO coordinator or director, make sure you own it. Make sure you're there for the right reason. This is your baby. Grow it. Be an advocate. Make sure everyone knows about your program and in your center especially, and make sure when it's time to brag, you brag about your program. Be proud of it. Be present for your staff and for the members and the other members of the team. Doesn't mean you have to be at the bedside all the time, but also be available. So if you're home at 2 a.m. and your phone rings, don't. I always tell my team I don't sleep, and so you can call me at 3 a.m. And sometimes that was maybe a mistake, but just be there for them and be that figure for them. Harry Truman had a phrase that the buck stops here, and I said this at a meeting many years ago, and I mean that, right? If you're going to be the owner of it, own it, and you could take a lot of blame and a lot of heat for some things, but as long as you could defend it if you have to, or make changes to make your program better, that's all you. Again, accept responsibility. So thank you for having me, and thanks for listening. Let me ramble on about something that's really near and dear to my heart. So you have my information here. If you have any questions you want to, after this presentation, if you want to reach out to me, to be more than willing. I'm always willing to talk to other people, to learn, and to maybe share some information I've learned over the last 20-something years. So again, thanks for having me. And again, I want to thank on behalf of Heartbeat Perfusion. Thank you all for being here today. You have many choices of what to do in your free time. Today's Saturday of a very busy holiday weekend. And so again, we appreciate you being here, all of the vendors and all of the assistants behind the scenes. So thank you, and have a lovely day. Thank you, Mario. If you have any questions right now, please go ahead and ask. The floor is open. I'm sorry, I'm using two screens. I'm trying to look back and forth. Okay, let's see if I can open it. Excuse me. So a question from Mo asks, how hard is it to build relationships with different departments within the hospital, like nephrology, infection control, and physical therapy? And do you see value in quarterly meetings? So I think it can be difficult if you don't have the proper approach. So I always did some homework and took information from other centers, how they utilize those different departments in their ECMO program. So I brought it always in a positive aspect of saying, I need your help. How can not so much I need your help, but how can we work together and try to make them understand the importance of their department being part of our program. And it seemed to work when we just had a very open policy discussion, just myself and one or two people from the department head possibly, instead of making it a huge group. One-on-one connection seemed much better, easier. And do you see a value in quarterly meetings? So yes, I think it's important, even maybe sometimes monthly meetings, depending on the size of your program, if your program's old or new, and if you have new members or new key stakeholders. So I think making sure everyone knows the latest and greatest, or even sometimes not so great aspects of your program needs to be shared for program development. Barry asks, where in your organization does the ECMO coordinator role reside? Nursing home perfusion. So when I was at Children's, being an RT, the program was developed by my predecessor, who was the RT director. So it resided under respiratory therapy. And I know there's a lot of variations of that across the country. For us, it just kind of stayed there because we kind of held our own and did a pretty good job with it, I think. But I think, whatever works for your center works for your center. I think a lot of RN driven programs are under nursing, of course, and some of them are under perfusion. I think it's just find what works. And I try to move it around a couple times and aim the different aspects. And I think it was best staying there since, out of the 18 or so specialists I had, 16 were RT and the rest, 1 or 2 or 3 were nurses. So it was easier to pull from that RT pool to staff. Instead of having to pull it from nursing was sometimes difficult because we were busy, they were busy. So that's why we stayed on the RT. But again, I think whatever works for your program is really just kind of focus on that. Sure. Any more questions? Sherry asks, what do you feel are the first critical steps to take when starting a new program? A lot of courage. No, I think coming in with a game plan for administration to express why you need an ECMO program. You also want to look around in your area to see how many ECMO centers are actually active in your area. And so you need to prove that ECMO is going to be a revenue making machine for the administration to jump into, because it's very expensive to start with equipment and disposables and training. So I think just having all of your ducks in a row before you get there and have, revenue and financial aspects to it, and how you're going to mold that program, how you're going to grow it, how you're going to tell the community about it with marketing or whatever you're going to do, and make sure you have the right team members picked, or at least the first initial couple team members, people who have maybe have ECMO experience already, are just very skilled in their ICU setting, and you feel like they're going to help support that group. Anyone else? Again, thank you everybody for being here today. Again, being part of the Heartbeats family, we appreciate your time here, and we hope to see you again next year. And hopefully we'll have more information for you. And if you have any advice for our conference, please let us know. This is our second annual conference and we are still growing. So any advice is greatly welcome. So again, thank you so much. I am out of time, and everyone have a great and safe holiday weekend. Thank you.